Hi everyone, I just wanted to go over some tips and some ideas for working on your graphic novels. I know everyone is in a little bit of a different stage of working right now, so I just wanted to kind of go over and give you some help for whichever stage you're in. So I have some friends who are just starting out with their ideas, so that's going to be one of the focuses of my tutorial right now. I'm going to show you a little bit of how to start to get those ideas turning and how to organize them using a graphic novel graphic organizer. So we're going to work on that a little bit, have it started. I'm also going to talk to my friends who have started their illustrating, who've gotten their ideas sketched out, which is a great start, especially for this genre or this type of novel. And then I also have some friends who've gotten pretty much their whole story sketched out and written. And so we want to look back at those stories and start their revision process or revising, where we go back and look at make sure that our ideas make sense. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at just the very first steps, just to see if there's anything that you can fill in, even if you're done with your story. So to make sure you have all these elements. So I am not a very strong artist. So when I start my graphic novel, I really like to start out with some words and some ideas. So as you can see here, I did use rectangles on my graphic organizer, but I really have to say I love how many of my friends started their pictures and then they did more of a squiggly line on the outline. I think that was really cool, a great idea. Since I didn't do my pictures yet, I didn't want to use that method just because I wasn't sure where my pictures exactly are going to end. All right, and plus too, just for the video, it's a little neater to put it in a grid like this in rectangles. So the first thing I have here is introducing, and then I'm going to have my main character placed in here. Then I'm either going to introduce the villain, right, or I'm going to start talking about some events. As you can see here, I want to make sure I have an event happening along to keep pushing the story through. You see I introduce here my problem, right? My problem is after I've kind of laid out the first characters and explained who they are. Then I'm going to add in also some details below, maybe add in another character as you can see. I'm going to have another event to push along the action. And then my second to last frame, I want to have that solution. And then here's where I'm going to have my wrap up or my ending. Okay. I made everything fit on one page, but as you know in Seesaw, I give you a few pages to work off of. And I saw many people wrote across many pages, which is fantastic. But this is easy to see all at once, and especially if you need to pause the video to kind of see what's on the graphic organizer, you can feel free to do that. So I'm going to give you a nice little picture here. And like I said, if you need to pause it, you can take a peek at it that way. All right, so in each section of this, you want to make sure that you have a picture relating to your character. You want to have an event, right? Some kind of action or movement in your sketch or your illustration. And then you want to have some kind of writing that tells what's happening, the description of what's happening in your story. And then also too some dialogue or some boxes or some speech bubbles that tell what the characters are saying. So I'm going to use an example here from Dogman, our favorite, right? So as you can see, this is more of a finished product of one of Dave Pilkey's pages. And in it, you can see that each box has either a character, part of the setting, part of the details of the events that are happening. You can see he uses his speech bubbles to tell what the characters are saying. A lot of dialogue we see in graphic novels. And then what we're going to see too is we're going to see little hints of who the characters are. Even though there's a few background characters here, you can see the main action still focuses on the main characters of the story as we go through. And remember that the action centers around the main character. That's also a big feature of graphic novels. Okay? So if you are a friend who is done with the basis of your story, you've gotten beginning, middle, and end down on your page, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to go back and see if you can add some more speech bubbles, see if you can put some more dialogue, see if you can describe a little bit more about what your picture says. If you're someone who's already drawn out all your boxes, see if you can make sure that you can make your sentences match what's happening in the picture. Okay, that's really important. It helps our readers when what our writing says matches the illustration, especially in graphic novels. okay? The last thing I'm going to have you do is, if you are someone who feels like their work is completely done, like your whole entire story is exactly how you want it to be, we're going to start looking at our sentences, making sure that we're using our conventions, right? Our capital at the beginning of a sentence, a period at the end. Even though you see, even in Dogman, even on his one page, sometimes Dav Pilkey does some fun things, right? He crosses out something, pretends like he made a correction. He kind of makes bold words, things like that, right? But you'll see he still does use his conventions. He uses an exclamation point at the end. He uses a period at the end of the sentence, right? So he still does use his conventions because he still wants his readers to understand what's happening. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you do feel like you're totally finished, to look back and make sure that every single sentence has that capital. Every single sentence has some kind of punctuation at the end, depending on what the action says. If something's super exciting, we know to do an exclamation point like you see here. And one fun thing you can do too is, just like Dav Pilkey did, you can add in a little bit of a bolder word, right? And emphasize your words. You can underline, you can go over it in a Sharpie, you can make it pop out so that some of the words that we see here pop off the page for your reader and highlight them, okay? So I'm going to ask you to think about where you are with your graphic novel right now. And then I'm going to ask you to go back to your writing, whether it's in Seesaw or whether you've started in your writer's notebook or a separate piece of paper, and take a look at it with fresh eyes. See if you can look at it as if you're a new reader coming to your story. See if you can find a place where you can add in a little extra excitement. See if you can add in a little spot where your character explains or says something else. See if you can add in one of our action elements like pow or boom, an action word, right? So that's what I'm going to ask you to do for today. And then if you could please hold on to that, we're going to do a little bit of sharing tomorrow, okay? Good job, everyone.